This video is for the Paper 53 app for iPad. To begin this tutorial, we'll open the app. You'll see in the main page there's various spaces, including a place to keep ideas. The app, amongst other things, is a digital drawing tool. It allows you to do quick sketches or more detailed drawings. You can also highlight areas of photographs, create flowcharts, and make lists. To navigate within the app, you're going to be using the common swipe, tap, and pinching motions. In the top right-hand corner, you'll also notice that there is a circle with a question mark. This is a tip center to give you a little bit more information about the various tools within the app. Finally, at the far right of the main page is a public stream, which we'll talk about a little more in a second video. If we scroll back to the left, you'll see that there are spaces. Each space works almost like an individual sketchbook, a place to keep various ideas. At the bottom of the screen, there is an addition sign where you can add a space. You can also customize your space or name them. You may want to name a space for a particular student that's working on a project or the project itself. So if we open up this space, I'm going to hit this page. You can also add pages again at the bottom. You'll notice as soon as you open the page that the tool tray appears at the bottom. If the screen or your tool tray is not identical to mine at the start, you'll just want to move the tools left to right by swiping until you get to this spot on your tray. So at the top you'll see that there's a T, a camera, and a bit of a squiggle. These function for text, uploading photos to draw on top of, and to sketch. The app itself has four main layers. There's a background layer, a fill layer, a photo layer, and an ink layer, which is primarily the layer we're going to be working in. I'd encourage you to play with each of the tools as I go through them. Take a moment to pause between each tool to give you adequate time to test out the features of each one. So we'll begin over on the left here with the eraser tool. It acts just like an eraser on paper. You'll also notice in the top left-hand corner that there's a reverse arrow. As you tap it, it moves back, and a forward arrow appears. So you can move back and forth between parts of the image that you've added and taken away until you get back to where you want to be working. Alternately, you can use two fingers and tap on the screen to reverse. So we'll start with the diagram tool. The diagram tool is interesting in that it recognizes specific shapes, like triangles, circles, and squares, and will correct these shapes. You have to be sure to completely close off the shape in order for it to work. You can press and highlight individual shapes in order to move them to a new area on your screen. You can also press and highlight and then tap somewhere else on the screen and duplicate a shape that you've made. The final feature of these smart shapes is that you can attach the shapes together so that when you highlight them, they become one. You can also draw and hold a line in this feature, which will then add arrows to the top of your line and the bottom. You just press the arrow to keep them on the page. So take a moment to play around with creating various patterns and shapes. The next tool is a fill tool. The fill tool allows you to fill large swatches of color onto your page. It also allows you to add large swaths of color. So play around with the various ways you can add color. Be sure to consider the eraser tool, how you can add shapes within those colors as well. So take a moment now to play with that. We then have the cut tool. The cut tool allows you to take a particular area of your drawing and move it around the page. You'll notice that when I moved below the tool tray, it disappeared. If you just swipe upwards from the bottom right corner, it'll bring your tools back. The cut tool also allows you to highlight an area on the page and just quickly tap the eraser to remove it altogether. I'm going to cut out a section of this drawing so that we can look at more of the tools. Within our drawing implements, we have a draw tool, which is a fountain pen. This tool is speed sensitive. The slower you go, the thinner your line. The faster you go, the thicker your line. You then have a sketch tool, which acts like a soft lead pencil. You can cross-hatch and shade. A neat feature of this app is that you can also zoom in to do more detailed work. To get certain areas darker, and then zoom back out. We then have a highlight tool, which acts as a thicker marker. And then our right tool, which is a thinner, more consistent mark. With each of these tools, feel free to play with adding text. Finally, we have our watercolor brush, which we can use to add light washes of color to our image. We can then go back and forth over it to make it darker. So those are your various drawing tools. Please take a moment now to play with these tools and see which different kinds of marks you can make with them. To the right-hand section of the tool tray, we have our color palette. We can scroll up and down for the various colors available to us. At the bottom, you'll notice that there's some empty color wells. Here in this circle area, we can actually mix colors. So if I highlight this dark green and then a lighter green, I can mix the two together. If I go further than I want the color to be, as opposed to moving clockwise to mix, I can move counterclockwise to go back. If I then really like that color, once it sticks to my finger, I can move it to my color tray. Alternately, I can tap quickly to get an eyedropper tool, which I can then move around my page to collect a specific color that I really like. Or I can tap slower to bring up the value scales, which I can use to darken or lighten my color, or change the color altogether. Take a moment to see what kind of colors you can mix and how you can add various colors to different types of mark making within the app. Take some time to really see what you can draw, what lines you can make, what patterns you can create. Finally, before I begin a page, I can also pick up a color and have an overall background color. So if you don't want to start with a white page, that's an option.